Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. So as you may already be aware, there's this fun little readathon, you may have heard of it, called Magical Readathon that's happening in the month of August. And my friend, if you have not heard of it, then you need to get on Rightmove and move out of that rock you've been living under, because this readathon is huge. It is hosted by G over at Book Roast, and it is this intricate, massively involved, amazing readathon, and I say it like I've participated in it before, which I have not. Which brings me to this video here, which is basically me catching major FOMO from the fact that I've never participated in this readathon before, because the first time I'd heard of it was in April of 2022, and I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what to expect, and I did not participate because I was already doing Realmathon, and also it all seemed very complicated, and there seemed like a lot of background work that you had to do in the lead up to it. So I promised myself in April, I was like, right, I'm gonna do some research, I'm gonna find out, all about this readathon, and I'm gonna participate in the next round. I then proceeded to procrastinate for the following months, and now we are in August. I've done none of that, but I am determined that even if I don't get to participate in the August round, I'm going to do all the catch-ups so that I get to participate next time in April next year if it comes back again. So that is what I'm doing today. I am going to take you through my TBR for my Magical Readathon Catch-up. So what I'm doing for Magical Readathon Catch-up is essentially going back through all the old videos, all the old announcement videos and everything that G has posted relating to this particular Aurelium Readathon, and redoing it on my own, and filling out all the character prompts, creating my character, going on the Novice Path, doing the Spring Equinox, doing the Gear Up, doing the Autumn Equinox. So hopefully by April next year I will be all caught up and ready to go. But unfortunately that does mean that I have a lot of reading to do, and fast. So basically, I want to run you through my TBR for the first sort of two sections of the readathon. The first section being the character creation. Now I know the Novice Path technically came first, but I want to create my character before I actually set off and do anything. And then the second section being the Novice Path. So for character creation, I am using the handy Scholar's Key here, which is all available on the Google Drive. And I forgot to mention, I'll link all the information about this readathon up above and down below for you to go and check out on G's channel. It is incredibly intricate, and I envy the level of skill required to put this together, and imagination and everything. She's gone so amazingly far with creating this world. But anyway, Scholar's Key, this is one of the documents that she created where you can essentially build your character. Now I named my character Kalia because I think it's a really pretty name. I looked up some Elven, Norse, Celtic names, and that one came up. I thought it was nice, so that's what I've named my character. Guild and Calling, I'm told at this point you're supposed to leave it blank because that comes later. Certification, I've left this blank because I want to be a master, but I'm not going to claim to be a master until I actually reach it, so I've left that blank. I've also left this little drawing square blank because I can't draw for shit, so I'm not going to try and draw my character. Then the first thing with a prompt attached to it is background. Now the options I have to pick between are wilding and urban. So for wilding, you have to read a book that's set in a forest. And then for urban, you have to read a book set in a city or a town. And you have to choose between either of those options. You don't have to read two books. So for this, I picked urban because my favorite ever fantasy is an urban fantasy, and that's House of Earth and Blood. And so I have decided to pick up After We Collided by Anna Todd. Now, before you judge me, the reason why I picked this up is because it is actually on my August TBR. So you'll find a lot of these books are on my August TBR. So it's a way I can sort of kill two birds with one stone. But After We Collided is set in the After universe. It follows Tessa and Hardin. This is the sequel to After. It's also a movie series on Amazon Prime if you want to go and check it out. Tessa in After, she's a good girl. She's always lived the life that her mum has wanted her to live. She's got the perfect boyfriend, perfect life, everything. And she graduates from high school and decides to go to Washington State University. Now, when she gets there, she meets a rebellious guy who is all the wrong things, called Hardin, and he is tatted up and he's got piercings and he's British and he's rebellious and he's, he really intrigues her and really enthralls her, and they find they have some things in common in terms of their love of literature. He really challenges her, and of course she falls in love with him. But unfortunately this sets off this massive series of events where there's just betrayal and scandal and cheating and everything like that, and this series follows all of that as they go through their relationship. So this is the second book in that series, and it's going to be the first book that I read in Magical Readathon. The next thing that you have to select is your province. And the options are Dayrune, where you have to read a book set in a desert, Dark Meadow, where you have to read a dark academia, Etheria, and I might not be pronouncing that right, but you have to read a book that features like fae or elven characters, and then Kerador, where you read a book from an ongoing series. Kerador is the one that I've chosen, so I need to read a book that's part of an ongoing series. But my book technically also fits the prompt for Etheria, so if I randomly decide halfway through to change my character, I technically can. And the book I'll be reading is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas, again on my TBR. So this one is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. It follows Feyre, who is a huntress who is just trying to help her family survive. They're in really dire straits. They're really poor because of some business decisions that her father made. And so she goes out into the forest and she hunts a wolf and kills it. Unfortunately though, this is the wrong wolf because the wolf is actually a shapeshifter from the Spring Court, which is a court, you know, where the Fae live, and the Fae and the humans have always been very separate. Anyway, and he was a friend of the High Lord of the Spring Court, Tamlin. So as retribution, Tamlin comes down to the human realm and says, you need to, you know, move in with me in the Spring Court and live out the rest of your days there with me. So it's a very Beauty and the Beast style tale, but that story definitely doesn't end the way you would necessarily expect it to. And this one picks up with a really true, beautiful romance as well. So yeah, I am super, super excited to be rereading this book. It's part of my Sarah J Maas reread series that I'm doing at the moment. So I'll link up a video where I talk about that in more detail, but this is the second book for my Magical Readathon Catch-up. Next up, you have to pick your heritage, and the options, I'm using the Traveler's Key here for the options, and they are Dwarf, where you have to read a science fiction, Earthling, where you read a book with elemental magic or an element word in the book or series title, so air, fire, earth, water, Elf, where you read a book with moon or stars on the cover or in the title, Human, where you read a contemporary or non-fiction book, Iltirian, where you read a book with a crow on the cover or in the title, or a book with a red cover. God, I'm struggling today. And Skymorn, where you read one of the oldest books you own or have on your TBR. And so I decided I wanted to be a Skymorn, and that means that I'm going to be reading Scythe by Neil Shusterman, which is actually one of the very first books that I got when I started my Bookstagram, which I've since sort of given up on, but trying to revive. I'll link it down below so you can check it out. It's mostly reviews now. But Scythe by Neil Shusterman, it's one of the first books I bought because a booktuber recommended it and I was like, yeah, sure, not realizing that it probably isn't my thing. The blurb says, "Thou shalt kill. What if death was the only thing left to control? In a perfect world, the only way to die is to be gleaned by a professional scythe. When Citra and Rowan are chosen to be apprentice scythes, they know they have no option but to learn the art of killing. However, the terrifying responsibility of choosing their victims is just the start. Corruption is the order of the day, and Citra and Rowan need to stick together to fight it. Then they are told that one of them will have to glean the other." So I'm getting star-crossed lover vibes maybe, or maybe they're just friends, I don't know. But this is the third book for my Magical Readathon Catch-up. So obviously the first thing I'm going to do is do a vlog for my character build, but because there's only 3 books there, that'll be one vlog, so I thought I may as well run you through my TBR for the second section of the readathon, which is the Novice Path. So we've got the lovely map of the Novice Path here, where you basically start down here and you make your way through all these various places till you get to the Aurelium Arc, and then you get into Aurelium and you're allowed to enter the school, start your school year, all that sort of thing. So the first sort of prompt on the Novice Path is the Novice Path entrance, where you have to read a book with a map in it. So I've picked Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas, again part of my big Sarah J Maas reread that I'm doing at the moment, and obviously it does have a map in it. Let us just find, there you go, the map of Aurelia, which is the land in which it is set. The Throne of Glass series follows Selena Sardothian, who is an infamous assassin in the land of Aurelia, which winds her up in Andovia, a prison camp at the start of the book. And she's been there for about a year when Prince Dorian and the Captain of the Guard, Kale, decide that they're going to come and rescue her and give her the opportunity of a lifetime to earn her freedom by competing in a competition to become the King's Champion. Now what this means is she has to compete against a number of other ruffians and, you know, generally bad people and assassins and things to prove her worth and become the King's Champion. Be that for like 6 or 7 years and then she's free. The only problem is all of her competitors start dying in very gruesome and mysterious ways. This is the next book and the first book on my Novice Path. The next place on the Novice Path is the Ash-Torn Tree. So a book that keeps tempting you, or top of my TBR. And so for this one, I had to pick A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This has been top of my TBR for a really long time, ever since I heard Meg with Books, I think it was, talk about how much she loves this series. And I recently went to Yalk, which I'll link my vlog of up above and down below where I talk about that. And I bought the second and third book in this series, and that just boosted this even further up my TBR. As for what it's about, it says the case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singh. The police know he did it. Everyone in town knows he did it. But having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Pippa Fitzamobi isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as the topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? The next stop on our tour or our path is The Mist of Solitude, and for this I have to read a standalone. And for this prompt, I was like, okay, I've had this book sitting on my shelves for a really long time. It was actually a gift from Ben, and I've never gotten around to reading it, and I feel really bad about it because I hate it when someone gives me a book and then it takes me ages to get to it. So I was determined now to finally pick it up, and that book is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. And part of the reason why I want to pick this up is because it's supposed to be similar to Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, which I read recently, and again, I'll link the vlog where I talk about that book in more detail. And I really enjoyed that. And apparently this is just supposed to be kind of like it. It's sort of slice of life, moment in time kind of book about a character who's just struggling. So as for what it's actually about, the blurb says, Eleanor Oliphant leads a simple life. She wears the same clothes to work every day, eats the same meal deal for lunch every day, and buys the same 2 bottles of vodka to drink every weekend. Eleanor Oliphant is happy. Nothing is missing from her carefully timetabled existence, except sometimes everything. The next stop on our path is Ruin of the Sky, which is read a book featuring ghosts / haunted house or other supernatural elements. For this one, it's actually a book that I've recently picked up from the library due to seeing a bunch of people talk about this author and me going, okay, have to read her backlog then. And that is Lost Among the Living by Simone St. James. Lost Among the Living apparently has ghosts in it, and a lot of Simone St. James's books apparently have like a paranormal element in them, so I think this will fit the prompt. I hope it will. I have the best intentions. But as for what it's about, it says, England 1921. 3 years after her husband, Alex, disappeared, shot down over Germany, Joe Manders still mourns his loss. Working as a paid companion to Alex's wealthy, condescending aunt, Dottie Forsyth, Joe travels to the family's estate in the Sussex countryside, but there is much she never knew about her husband's origins, and the revelation of a mysterious death in the Forsyths' past is just the beginning. All is not well at Wych Elm House. Dottie's husband is distant and their son was grievously injured in the war. Footsteps follow Joe down empty halls and items in her bedroom are eerily rearranged. The locals say that the family is cursed and that a ghost in the woods has never rested. And when Joe discovers her husband's darkest secrets, she wonders if she ever really knew him. Isolated in a place of deception and grief, she must find the truth or lose herself forever. And then a familiar stranger arrives at Wych Elm House. So it looks like it has ghosts and a haunted house. So covering all the bases, this is my next book. The next stop on the journey is Obsidian Falls to read a thriller or a mystery book. So this, again, I had to take the opportunity to read a book that I recently bought and I'm very excited about, which is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I'm not going to tell you what this is about because I would be spoiling it for me and for you. Then we get to Tower of Rumination, and I have to read a 5-star prediction. Now, 5-star predictions aren't something I'm very good at doing. I don't tend to do them. So trying to find something that I thought would be 5 stars is difficult because I don't tend to do a lot of research about books before I read them because I like to go into it surprised and not really knowing what's coming. So 5-star prediction's hard, but the way I've chosen my 5-star prediction is, one, I've heard a lot of the booktubers that I like and have similar tastes to talk about this book and really enjoy it, and 2, I love romance and I love historical fiction and I love sort of Regency era romance. So that tells me I'm probably going to love Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore because I love the Bridgerton series and apparently this is a good thing to read if you love that series. So the blurb says, Oxford 1879, a beautiful blue stocking is about to teach a duke a lesson. Brilliant but destitute Annabelle Archer is one of the first female students at Oxford University. In return for her scholarship, she must recruit influential men to champion the rising women's suffrage movement. Her first target is Sebastian Devereux, cold calculating the most powerful duke in England. When Annabelle and her friends infiltrate his luxurious estate, she's appalled to find herself attracted to the infuriatingly intelligent aristocrat. But perhaps she's not the only one struggling with desire. Soon, Annabelle is locked in a battle with rising passion and a will matching her own. She'll need to learn fast just what it takes to bring down a duke. And then the very, very last thing is Aurelium Academy arc. So this is the one book you read before you officially are good to go. And the prompt here is a book with a school setting, which makes sense because it's the last thing before you enter the school. So the one I have picked is again another Simone St. James backlog, and it is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. It says, just get away, don't think about it, just run. 1950, at the crumbling Idlewild Hall School for Unwanted Girls, 4 roommates begin to bond over dark secrets and whispered fears until one of them mysteriously disappears. Present day, journalist Fiona Sheridan can't get over the murder of her sister 20 years ago near the ruins of Idlewild. And when another body is found during renovations at the school, she'll begin to uncover horrors that were meant to remain buried and a voice that won't be silenced. So it looks like it's a dual timeline set in a school, even if it's not a traditional school. Yeah, and it's a Simone St. James, so it'll have a paranormal element in it as well, which is going to be, you know, keeping me on the edge of my seat, hopefully. And I'm gonna really be pissed off if I don't like the first book, because that'll make me not want to read this one. Those are the 10 books that I have picked out so far for the first 2 stages of Magical Readathon, the Aurelium edition. Let me know down below if you are participating in this readathon, if you're catching up like me, or if you're participating on time in August. I'd love to know what's on your TBR for August. Come and chat to me down below. I do my best to reply to every single comment, and I love talking to you guys. I really, really hope that you liked this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It is a super, super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!